Have you ever noticed a little blood when brushing your teeth? Like pink tint in the sink? It doesn't hurt, so you probably just rinse and move on. But here's the thing. If your hand bled every time you washed it, would you ignore that? Probably not. You'd probably book a doctor's appointment straight away. But why do we do that with our gums? Now, as a dentist, I see this all the time. Patients who think bleeding gums are normal or just ignore them altogether. Some try mouthwash or switch to a gum health toothpaste and hope it goes away. But the bleeding keeps coming back. Well, here's where it gets interesting because bleeding gums isn't just about your mouth. There's growing evidence that they could raise your risk of heart problems, including heart attacks. And no, this isn't just one of those everything causes everything headlines. The connection has been studied, and the mechanism makes a lot of sense once you see it. And it's not just the blood itself that's the issue, it's what the bleeding allows in the bacteria, the inflammation, and the load on your immune system. So, in this video, we're going to break it down why bleeding gums could be affecting your heart, what's actually happening inside your body when your gums bleed, and how to tell if you're at risk or if it's just a simple fix. Let's start by looking at what bleeding gums really mean. So, what does it actually mean when your gums bleed? Now, most people would say this is from brushing too hard, but in reality, that's almost never the full story. Bleeding is your body's way of telling you there's an inflammation here, not a surface problem, but a tissue problem. You see, your gums are packed with tiny blood vessels, and when they're healthy, they don't bleed. But when the bacteria starts building up along the gum line, like in plaque, your immune system then kicks in, and your immune response creates something called a chronic low-grade inflammation. Now, if this stays mild, your body can usually handle it. But once the tissue breaks down and you start seeing blood when you brush, that means your gum barrier is compromised. And once that happens, bacteria can slip through into your bloodstream. And that's the real issue here. It's not the bleeding itself, but it's what the bleeding allows in. So here's the question. How does a bleeding gum line lead to a heart problem? Well, let's zoom in. Because your mouth is home to over 700 species of bacteria. Most of them are harmless and some of them are even helpful. But when your gums bleed, the bad ones get access to places they're not supposed to be in, and that includes your bloodstream. And once they're there, they don't just disappear. Your immune system basically sees them as invaders, and that triggers inflammation, not just in your mouth, but throughout your body. And this is what we call systemic inflammation. And here's where things get interesting. Some bacteria from your mouth can attach to the walls of blood vessels. Others trigger your immune system to create plaque, not the soft kind on your teeth, but the kind that clogs arteries. And over time, this makes your blood vessels stiffer, narrower, and less flexible. This increases blood pressure and raises your risks for serious problems like stroke, clots, or even heart attack. And this is in theory. We now have studies that show people who have gum disease are 2 to 3 times more likely to have a heart attack. So, no, it's not just some blood in the sink, it's a signal that your mouth might be contributing to inflammation beyond your gums. And the heart is one of the first organs to feel that impact. So, how do you know if this actually applies to you? Well, the truth is, most people with gum inflammation don't feel anything. It doesn't always hurt, it doesn't always bleed, and by the time it does, the inflammation may have been there for months or possibly even years. And this is why us dentists call it a silent condition. But there are clues. If you regularly see blood in the sink after brushing or flossing, if your gums look red, puffy, or feel tender to the touch, or your breath still smells even after brushing, that's not just a hygiene issue, that's a sign of inflammation. And here's something most people don't realize. If you're using gum health toothpaste or using mouthwash every day and the bleeding is still happening, the symptoms aren't fixed, they're just being masked. And over time, that low grade inflammation can go from just a gum issue to a whole body issue. And here's my suggestion. Even if you're seeing just one of those signs regularly, it's worth having a checkup, not just for your teeth, but for your long term health. So, why does all of this matter? Because bleeding gums isn't just a mouth issue anymore. And now we know that it's been linked to inflammation, immune load, and bacteria slipping into the bloodstream. And when that happens, it doesn't just stay local. So, studies have found the same bacteria from infected gums inside arterial plaque in people with heart disease. And other research also shows that people with gum disease are more likely to experience heart attacks, strokes, and even issues with blood sugar control and immune function. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody with bleeding gums is going to have a heart attack. But what it does mean is that your mouth might be playing a bigger role than you might have thought. And the good news is, this isn't about doing anything extreme. Sometimes it's just about noticing the signs and the symptoms early and making a few small changes to help your bleeding gums heal before they become a problem. So, if your gums are bleeding, don't panic, but don't ignore it either. It might be a sign that your mouth may need a little more care, not aggressive brushing, not more mouthwash, but real, consistent cleaning around the gum line, especially, and letting your gums heal. And if this helped you understand things a little bit differently, maybe think about sharing it to somebody who still thinks that bleeding gums are normal. And also, let me know in the comments down below if you ever noticed bleeding gums and you didn't think much of it. You're definitely not alone in this.